Hi, everyone. Good evening. If you can hear me, please enter in a question. You should have a dialog box on the right side of your screen or somewhere on your screen where you can enter in questions. I just want to see if you can hear me. So, the question I'll ask you if you want to put in an answer is how cookie season is going. So, if you'll answer me that question, I can tell that you're listening to me. Yay. Okay. They're coming in. Thank you so much. So you should be able to also adjust the volume on your end, and all of the attendees will be muted. So we won't be able to take any questions unless I unmute you, which I'm happy to do when we get to that section. So we're just on hold. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes to see who else is coming on board before we get started. So thank you all for joining me this evening. Give me just a minute. All right. So I think we'll get started. Good evening again. Thank you all for joining us. So this is a webinar that we're doing for this month. And since World Thinking Day is approaching in February, which I'll talk about exactly on the date, we wanted to take some time to do a little online session and see where you guys are at, what questions you have, and give you a little background on it. So before we do that, my name is Monica. I'll give you my information here on the next slide in just a minute. But if you can hear me, I know that you should be able to have a section where you can ask any questions as we go through. Feel free and ask any questions anytime. I will stop. As we're doing the webinar, I'll take a minute and stop in between to see if there's any questions that I can answer or any comments. I also would like to make this session as informal as possible. So if you have any input that you would like to contribute on our discussion, because I know there's a lot of you out there that have done World Thinking Day events and have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. I would love to also open it up for you to share. So I will let you know when I'm going to do that. You'll raise your hand, and then I'm going to try to unmute you on my end if you would like to contribute or say anything towards the end of the session of the presentation here. So that's kind of my thoughts on all this. So let me move to the next slide and we'll get started here. So here's my information. For those of you that I haven't had the pleasure of speaking to or emailing with or meeting in person, my name is Monica Hasso. I'm the Director of Volunteer Experience for our council. My phone number is on the screen as well as my email, so that if you have any questions or concerns, or you like something that I mentioned and can't remember, or you need me to email you some stuff, you can definitely do that. So what I wanted to do to give others a little bit of time to log on is I wanted to start our presentation with a question. So I'm going to provide a question for you on your screen that I'd like for you to answer, and it'll also help me understand what kind of experience you have with World Thinking Day or not. It's okay if you don't. I'm going to launch the question now. You should see it on your screen. And the question is simply, how familiar are you with World Thinking Day? So have you, are you where you've never heard of World Thinking Day? You've heard of it but don't know much. You think you know about World Thinking Day, but maybe not. Or you know everything there is about World Thinking Day. And if that's the case, then I will be reaching out to you. So if you'll take a minute to go ahead and answer with one of those. I'll close the poll here in just a minute. Let me see what kind of answers we're getting. I have 8 to 3, about 80% of you have voted, so I'll give it a couple more seconds. Okay. All right. So thank you all for answering. So I will go ahead and close the question so you won't see it or be able to vote anymore, and I'll share the responses. All right, so these are the responses here. So 17% of you have never heard of World Thinking Day. Awesome. That means that you guys will learn a lot today. 33% of you said you've heard of it but don't know much. That's good to know. 50% of you said you think you know about World Thinking Day. So that's great. That's a lot of experience that we can count on. And 0% said they know all there is to know about World Thinking Day. Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I have done a lot of research on the subject. I compiled a lot of resources for you that I'll have available for you to download. So I'm hoping that everybody that's on the call today can learn a little something. All right, so let's go ahead and continue with the presentation. Before we do that, and I'll show the next slide, I did want to let you know that this is being recorded. My goal is to keep it at under 45 minutes unless you guys have a lot of questions or want to share. And the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. So our council has a YouTube channel where we do some of these recordings regularly. You can, on different subjects, all types of subjects. So you can always find them on our YouTube channel. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. What we're going to cover today is this very simply. I don't know why that came out that way, but our agenda is basically discovering what is World Thinking Day. We'll go over a brief history. You'll see why you really can't understand all that there is to understand about World Thinking Day unless you have a little understanding of the history. So we'll do that briefly. We'll talk about WAGs and explain what that is. And then the second half of the presentation is all about how you, your girls, your troop, your service unit can celebrate World Thinking Day. And I'll talk more specifically about how our council traditionally does that. I have a lot of examples and ideas, and that's where I'd be happy to see if any of you are willing to share. All right. First and foremost, World Thinking Day is officially February 22nd. It has been that way for over 100 years. So it's February 22nd. That does not mean that you have to celebrate it on February 22nd. In fact, usually that'll be a weekday, right? So troops, service units, groups will choose to celebrate it usually after, when it's convenient for them and they've planned for it. And in case you're wondering, it's February 22nd because that is when several key individuals to the scouting world when they have their birthday. So that's more of a history lesson. I don't have time to kind of go over all of that, but that's why February 22nd was chosen. And what is World Thinking Day? Very simply put, it's a special day for Girl Scouts and Girl Guides from all around the world to think of each other and give thanks and appreciation to their sister Girl Scouts. So that's very briefly the definition. With that being said, it's also to develop awareness about, sisters around the world, explore cultural similarities and differences, and learn about what issues are happening with girls and women around the globe. So some of you may or may not have heard of Girl Guides before, because we in this country are called Girl Scouts. But this is where the necessary brief history lesson comes in. So bear with me here. Very simple timeline. In 1910 is when Girl Guides officially began. And it was a movement that was founded by Baden Powell, the founder of the Boy Scout movement. So in 1910, Girl Guides began. He also started with his sister. I don't want to miss that out. So Agnes Baden Powell also helped him begin Girl Guides in 1910 as a movement. In 1912 is when Juliet Gordon Low founded Girl Guides in the United States, calling it Girl Scouts. 1926 is when World Thinking Day was originally created. 1928 is when the organization of WAGs was formed, which I'll talk about a little more here. So this is why it's important to know what Girl Guides are. So Girl Scouting is a member of the WAGs organization. In other countries, they are called Girl Guides. So that's why the previous um, slide mentioned it's a day for Girl Scouts and Girl Guides to celebrate each other. And going back to February 22nd, that is the mutual birthday of both Lord Baden Powell, the founder of Boy Scouts, and his wife Olav, who was very involved as well with all of these movements. So both of them had their birth date on February 22nd, which is why it was chosen that that would be the date for World Thinking Day. So just a little historical trivia. I thought that was kind of cool. All right, so what is WAGs? WAGs is the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. We really can't move forward and talk about World Thinking Day without talking about WAGs as well. It is the largest voluntary movement dedicated to girls and young women in the world. So GSUSA is a member of WAGs along with 149 other countries. You'll see why this is all going to tie in as we move throughout the presentation. I also included the website for WAGs on your screen. I will show you what their website looks like here. Give me a second. So here it is, World Association of Girl Scouts and Girl Guides. There is a lot of information here. It's beautifully done. I'll go over some of what they offer you in the presentation, but feel free to also explore their website when we're done. All right, so let's move on with the presentation here. Go back to my PowerPoint. All right, so that's WAGs. That's what it stands for. One of the significant things that WAGs does, apart from all the educational instruments, resources worldwide, they also maintain our world centers. So I'm not sure if you've heard of them or not, but we have 4, and I say we because Girl Scouting is, GSUSA is a member of WAGs. There are 4 world centers that they maintain. The whole point of these centers is to be available to our Girl Scouts and our Girl Guides. So the more we can get the word out, the better, especially for our older girls that really like to travel and are challenged by it. The 4 world centers are our Cabaña in Mexico, Pax Lodge, which is in London, our Chalet in Switzerland, Sangam in India. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the previous slide also mentions Africa. There is not a center per se in Africa, but there is a rotating center that moves around Africa, which I think is really cool. So if you want more information on the centers, again, go to the WAGs website. It's great to learn more about them, to show your girls so that they understand that they are connected throughout the globe and that these are available for them to visit. Another thing the WAGs organization does is through Girl Scouts of the USA, there is something called the Juliet Low World Friendship Fund. And that is a fund that was started years and years ago to help Girl Scouts and Girl Guides travel. So you will often see troops service units that put together a World Thinking Day event have some component where the girls and adults attending can contribute 5 cents, $1. It doesn't really matter. I've seen a lot of different ways that's done. I've seen it where you have glass jars and girls can bring their spare change. I've seen it where dollar bills are contributed, checks, electronically. So it doesn't really matter. The whole point of that fund, though, is to, in Juliet Gordon Lowe's name, which was the founder of Girl Scouts here in this country, is to help other girls travel and visit these world centers. So you'll see and hear about this. This is another thing that's done through WAGs. And probably one of the neater things I think for this conversation is that every year the WAGs organization develops these amazing resources for our Girl Scouts. So here are the two that I wanted to talk about right now for this year, 2019. They have a challenge badge, which looks like this, and an activity pack. The activity pack is quality made. It's a booklet. You can go to the WAG's website, download it. I have also added it as a handout. You should have a section on your dialog box for the webinar. And if you look at the handout section, you should see 4 handouts. This is one of them. I added the printer friendly for you. There is a printer friendly version, which is mostly, white with some color. And then there is a full color that you can find on the WAG's website. So what's great about the activity pack is that it walks you through what activities you and your girls can do so that they can earn the challenge badge. And every year, this activity pack is different. The theme for this year is leadership, where it takes you through 110 years of history through the initiatives that they do and try to teach their girls. And then once they're done with the requirements, they would earn the challenge badge. So it's pretty cool. Every year is different. Every year is a different theme. So I will remind you of this later. But if you want to download the full color, go to the WAG's website. Otherwise, look at it in your handout section of this webinar. All right. So I think with all of that, I hope that adds a little bit more meaning and explanation to the WAGs pin. So I have here a picture of a daisy, a brownie, and an older girl. And in the pictures, you can see their daisy pin, their brownie pin, and their Girl Scout pin. And right above that, we are all used to showing or seeing the WAGs pin. So this is the WAGs pin. Sometimes it's called the Association pin. Or the World Trefoil pin. It's all the same thing. It's the WAGs pin. This is a symbol for WAGs. And so the reason why it sits above the Girl Scout pin is because Girl Scouts is a member of WAGs. So I hope that this is all helping you guys understand a little bit more of the meaning behind it and where it all comes from and what we want to teach the girls about it, that they belong to a world movement where they have Girl Scouts, Girl Guides around the world that they will have similarities with, differences with, and then learn from that. All right. So what we'll talk about for the rest of the session is really how to celebrate World Thinking Day. I'm sorry, my computer's having technical difficulties. Let me see if I can minimize it. Let me go back. No, sorry. So we'll talk about how to celebrate World Thinking Day. Now that I've given you a little bit of background, a little bit of history, some resources, I want to spend the rest of our time talking about different ways that you and your troop can celebrate World Thinking Day. So before I do that, I want to see if there's any questions that you have. I don't see any questions. So if you have questions, feel free and keep entering them in, and I'll regularly check them. All right, so let's go over some ideas to celebrate World Thinking Day. So very simply, this is what's recommended. It's recommended that for World Thinking Day, you and your Girl Scouts celebrate the day, along with the other 10 million girls and women around the world, that we help them be inspired by the history and the impact of this movement, that they connect with sisters globally, that they take action to speak out on issues that they care about. And then you can also make a difference by fundraising for projects around the world, as we discussed with the Juliet Gordon Lowe World Friendship Fund. All right, so I'm going to go specifically. There are events that are typical around World Thinking Day, or as close to that as convenient. So those events could be troop or service unit level events. It's completely up to your area, your troop, your service unit. Um, and I think every part of our council, Girl Scouts of the Desert Southwest, is a little different. But what I have seen is a lot of service units do this as a big event for themselves. I've even seen where service units combine their efforts to offer one big event for the girls, but it can be at a troop level as well. Remember, the date is February 22nd, so that's why I put ish afterwards. You don't have to have something on that specific day. Just remember that that is the day officially. And then whenever it's convenient for you to set up the event afterwards, feel free and do. You may also have heard this as International Tea, or International Tasting of Tea, or tea tasting. I've heard it referred to that as well in the past. It's the same concept, same event, it's just a different name. The official name is World Thinking Day, so I didn't want to confuse us. And probably one of the big parts is that if you're going to have a World Thinking Day event or participate in one, is the key component is that the troops or the groups. So assume you have a big troop and you're going to divide the girls into small groups, 2, 3, or more. Then each of those groups or troops would select a country that is a WAGS member. So I know a lot of you have participated in events in the past, but maybe it wasn't really clear that the country the girls select has to be a WAGS country. That's the whole point, to learn about their counterparts in another country. And if you're wondering, how do you know which of those 150 countries are participating in WAGs, I will show you. I'm going to go to the website, the WAGs website again. And if you if you scroll down, you'll see this where it divides it into the regions. You can click on any of these. Like I'm going to click on Africa, for example. Well, maybe that's not a good example because they rotate. So let's go ahead and do Europe. Let's say we're interested in the Europe area. It'll give you information, and it'll also show you the list of countries as well, the Europe region. So here it'll tell you there's 64 countries, and then you'll be able to get a list of them. And that's the case for all of them. There's also our world, regions, and then you can go to Western Hemisphere. And you get all sorts of information as well, because they all have their separate site. So just in case you were wondering about where to get the list of the countries, that's where you would find it. WAGS is always the most up to date. When I was preparing for this presentation, there is tons of information about World Thinking Day, a lot of printed materials. However, a lot of them were older, so they didn't have the right number of countries, or the list, sometimes with the list, is outdated. So you always want to go to the WAGS website to look for the most up-to-date list of the countries that the girls can choose from. All right. Moving along, usually your World Thinking Day event will have some type of flag ceremony at the beginning. So it's more of a procession of the flags, similar to, I mean, very much smaller, right? But similar to what you would see at the Olympics, where every country comes through and parades with their flag. Well, the girls would do the same thing. So you see here some pictures of examples where some girls actually have the flag of that country. Other girls, as is this picture, have a flag that they did out of a poster or maybe a banner. So it's fine either way. It's all about the girls, right? And what they choose to do and what's available to them. That's fiscally responsible, of course. So the whole point is to have some type of procession where the flags of the countries are paraded through the venue. So I'll leave that up for a little bit so you can see. I would advise also that wherever you are located, that you contact your nearest program center and ask if they have any flags that you can check out. So some of our program centers do have international flags that are available. Another key component of the World Thinking Day, I don't know why it keeps doing that, I'm sorry, is the display. So when you have a World Thinking Day event, a big part and the funnest part probably for the girls as well as the most educational is the display. So they will be responsible, they've chosen their country, and now they're responsible for setting up some type of display that they will have at the event. So here you have three examples, some very simple, some more elaborate, some more decorative. It's really up to the girls. I have seen all sorts of displays. It's up to the girls what they would like to do. Now, I've seen a lot of poster boards too. Believe it or not, there are a lot of variations. It's up to the girls, like I mentioned, from very simple to more detailed. They can have a game on the display, a food, a craft. I'll go over that later. However, if you're somebody that's looking for more structure to offer your girls in terms of what the poster board should look like, there is this to give you an idea. So this is where in the middle you would have some pictures, general information. On each side, you would have more of a focused view of the country. So you can use this or not, but it may be helpful to give you some ideas on what you can do with the girls. Gives you something to start with. All right. Another detail to the World Thinking Day event are swaps. Swaps are a very traditional Girl Scout legacy type of tradition. So girls love swaps. Swaps is called something with a pin or something, which I'm gonna call it affectionately pinned. The swap is a small gift or token that is exchanged among girls. I don't want to get too much in the details of swaps because that could be a whole other workshop. I just wanted to let you know that when you're doing a World Thinking Day event, you could encourage the girls to create swaps that are specific to the country that they chose. So here you have different examples. A lot of the swaps will have flags. Some will have facts on them listed. Some will be more fun. So it's completely up to the girls. And they'll love it. They love the swapping. Another thing you can do for your World Thinking Day event is dress, the way you dress. So girls may decide to dress like Girl Scouts or Girl Guides from their country or wear traditional clothing from that country. So that's another option. It makes it a lot of fun and very festive. And if you're wondering if older girls would be into this, I have seen many of these events where the older girls are all dressed based, from as traditional clothing from that country because it's the country they chose, they're excited about, and they love it. They love it. Food samples. So this is probably my favorite part of the World Thinking Day event. So you will include some type of food component. So usually, depending on the country you choose, right, your food sample will vary. But the idea is to get a taste of that country. The girls also learn through that process. They had to learn about the foods. Maybe they even cooked or prepared the sample themselves. Here are a couple of guidelines, however. Make sure that we're safe. So whatever the food handler's guidelines or any other restrictions placed by the facility are, that we're following that because we want to be safe whenever it comes to our girls and our big events like this. I chose this picture because you can see the samples can be picked up easily. Nobody has to distribute them with their hands. You don't have to use gloves necessarily, at least for these cups here. So the food sample can be a drink or actual edible food. If you have to distribute food like this or have people pick them up, then of course that's not as safe. So just some ideas to keep in mind. You also want to be clean. So be mindful. Some of these events are pretty big. So you want to have as clean of a space as possible. Bring your own trash bags, um, necessary cleaning wipes if you need them. Be prepared with enough samples so you'll want to get an idea about how many people to expect. Could be 20 people, could be 100 or more people. So it just depends on the event. Also, be mindful. So, of course, we're Girl Scouts, we're good stewards of our environment. So, try to use items that are recyclable, reduce, reuse, recycle, that ideology. Okay, another part of the World Thinking Day celebration is a presentation. So I have seen this and it's a blast. It's great. So what the girls would do is they would choose some type of performance from that country. Could be it's optional, so whatever they want. It can be brief. It doesn't have to be long. It could be very brief. It has to be girl led. That's the most important part and the fun part. It could be a song, a simple song, a dance, a skit. That one didn't show up. I'm sorry. It can be anything the girls want as long as it's girl led and that's what they chose. So here you have an example of the girls singing a song and doing a little dance. So it's a lot of fun. Usually the presentations will happen on a stage or a certain area. They're very brief, like I said, and it's optional. So the girls don't have to, but it's a lot of fun and it adds a whole other dimension to the event. Most of the World Thinking Days event now also have a passport. So the passport would look something like what you have on your screen. A lot of troops and service units may customize it. That's fine. There's lots of resources out there that can help you with that. The whole point is that as girls travel from country to country, they get a stamp in their passport. You can also do stickers. It's the same idea. Each country would then have their own stamp or sticker that they can provide all of the girls. So again, be prepared to have enough. Make it as relevant as possible. And then this is a cool keepsake that the girls can keep after the event. I think we're getting towards the end of the presentation here. So one of the things I wanted to mention that can also happen in a World Thinking Day event are ceremonies. So this is really special. Ceremonies, as we know, mark a special day or moment in a Girl Scout's life. So having a World Thinking Day with an event, as an event with the ceremony would also be meaningful. These ceremonies tend to be more reflective. They don't have to be heavy or solemn or serious. They usually, this is where you would provide your Girl Scouts with the WAGS pin. So I know that we don't have too many of these ceremonies, and we usually will give Girl Scouts their Girl Scout pin and the WAGS pin at the same time. And that's fine. That's fine. But if you want to go above and beyond and really try something different, maybe, or have a event so that you can provide the girls with their WAGS pin, this is an opportunity to do that, so that the girls also see what that is. So one of the things that we're doing here in El Paso to try is we will have a WAGS pinning ceremony for adult volunteers early next month. It's on our calendar already. And the point of that is to invite leaders to come to participate in it. I'll have the script, I'll have the pins, we'll do it together. That way you can take that back to your Girl Scouts and do that with them. So you could choose to just do that as a ceremony for your troop, and that's how you celebrate World Thinking Day. That's another option. You don't have to do a big event with a lot of people. You could do the ceremony with your Girl Scouts and then provide them with the WAGS pin then. I wanted to mention, since we are talking about an event, that if you are planning an event, whether it's this one or any other event, whether it's for your service unit, your troop, we do have an event planning guide specific to our council that's available on our website. So please refer to that. It'll guide you through step-by-step of event planning. We don't have the time to do all of that now, and that might not apply to you as you're listening, but keep that in mind because that would be very useful. And I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I don't know why that's happening. So I wanted to recap by going over all the options that you have available. So we've talked about a lot. We talked about some history. We talked about the WAGS organization. We talked about ways that you can celebrate it. So there's lots of ways you can celebrate World Thinking Day with your Girl Scouts. Another way is by earning the World Thinking Day Award. So here you see two, this is the front cover of two booklets that are put together by GSUSA, and it also has requirements that the girls can complete. When they complete them, they would earn a badge. And I'm sorry, let me go back here. There we go. This badge right here. So they would complete these requirements and then they would earn this badge, which we have available in our shops. So that's something that's put together by GSUSA. So I know earlier we talked about another badge, so I didn't want to confuse anybody. This one that you have on your screen is offered through GSUSA, these booklets. These booklets, I also included them as handouts for you to see under the handout section of your webinar dialog box. You can see that there. One's for the younger levels, one's for the older levels. If you also go to our website, our council website, you'll notice that on the very front page, we have World Thinking Day 2019. And if you click continue, it'll take you to a GSUSA page on World Thinking Day with a little bit of information. And then these are those packets that I just showed you. There's also a lot of other resources for your Girl Scouts to help with World Thinking Day. All you have to do is remember to go to the front page of our website and click under the World Thinking Day 2019 section. All right, so moving back to the presentation, we have these that your girls can participate in and do. We also have the World Thinking Day thematic information that the WAGS organization has put together. That's the one I mentioned to you earlier. This badge is great. You would get it after accomplishing the requirements here. This you would have to probably order online through WAGS because I'm not sure if we have them in the shop. We'd have to check. All right, and that completes the webinar on the World Thinking Day topic. I did really good timing, so I want to see if you have any questions or any comments. If you would like to share something that you or your troop or your service unit have done for World Thinking Day or have seen, I'm going to open the floor to you. So let me know by raising your hand if you would like for me to try to unmute you. If you can't be unmuted, I can always read your questions and share that with everybody else. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. As we're waiting, if you'll answer for me a question while we're waiting, just to make sure you guys are still out there. What did you learn something from the webinar? What is it that you did not know about World Thinking Day before this webinar? If you would share that with me, I would love it. Okay, so I'm reading a comment where some of the documents are not downloaded. That you're getting an error message. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I will, I can put them on our, well, what I can do is I can email you guys the links of where I found all of them so that you have them from the direct source, and hopefully that'll help. But thanks for letting me know. Any other questions or things you'd like to share about World Thinking Day? Do you guys think you're going to do this with your girls moving forward? Yeah. So yes, the girls can choose out of 150 countries, and I'll be honest with you, in some service units that do an event every year, they are not joking around. So it's one of the best events that they have for the year, one of the biggest ones, a lot of excitement around it. So because of that, the girls, the girls and the troops will, there's like rules around it. Like they will open up the event for troops to choose their country months, like I'm talking November, December, and then the troops get to select 3 countries so that there's no double dipping and it's not the same country everybody's choosing. So there are rules sometimes that service units put in place because the girls are so excited and want to do it and want to do the country that they may be interested in. So I'm glad it helped you guys. Thank you. Yeah, WAGs is awesome. I had to mention WAGs as a presentation to help you everyone understand the whole reason why we started World Thinking Day. I'll send you guys the links in the email. You will get an email thanking you for the webinar probably in an hour from now, but I'll send you a different email from my email address with the links to the resources. And yes. So I have someone sharing that younger troops usually do 1 country per troop, and cadets will do 1 country per girl. That's a great idea. That's great. So if you have a smaller area, maybe where you can't do a lot of countries for the event, you could do 1 country per troop for the younger girls, and then the older girls, cadets and older, would choose 1 country each. I like that idea. Thank you for sharing. That's great. All right. Anything else that you guys want to share or ask? I'll be here for about 5. It's 6:40 on my phone, so I'll be here for about 5 minutes in case you have anything else. Otherwise, that's the end of the presentation. And remember, you can find it on the YouTube channel, which you can access from our website. If you have other people that you think would benefit from it, send them over. I'd be happy to share the presentation if you ever need it to present, if you want it to anybody else. So thank you all for joining me today. Appreciate it.